Thank you for joining everybody. I banged my camera sitting down. This thing is a little bit sensitive. I hope this finds you well. I like my new music.
Thank you. Please be seated. The record will show the presence of all of yours, counsel, and defendant. Please take a stand. Doctor?
We are going live. This is the afternoon session. I hope everybody had their coffee. Getting big. Hope everybody had their coffee this morning. This afternoon, my dear friend Kathy, I love you. Don't have a morning or an afternoon. Okay, this is the medical examiner who did the autopsy. She was here earlier today.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tim.
Good afternoon. There.
Let's go back over some of the evidence and talk about a few other things that
I think we ought to redirect y'all.
Sure.
Boy, is that loud in
So
that room.
back on January 30th,
testing.
you learned that there was a deceased in a possible incident, correct? Correct. When did you actually learn of it?
Most likely at the morning meeting on the day of the autopsy.
Okay, what day again was that?
That was February 1st. I don't know why you don't remember it.
February 1st, 2023.
I hope y'all can hear me well.
Okay, so I know that the body arrives. In what time period did the body arrive to your location?
I do not know. That would be documented within the case file, but that's not something that I keep track of in my records.
Not my job.
But is it in the file itself?
Yes.
Do you know where that might be located? Where it might be noted?
Nope.
Body retrieval time.
Yes, please. Can you look?
I don't have the case file.
Oh, you don't have the report?
I have my report.
But not the full file?
Correct.
Okay. Now, can you just raise up so I can see the report, the size of the report that you're looking at?
I keep saying, no.
There's 7 pages of my report.
Okay. So at this time, you're going to approach the report.
I do not know.
On exhibit,
Not doing it.
defense exhibit AAA, I just want to show it to her.
Testing. Oh, that's the low.
The high's not
Not working. Ma'am, I don't know what you're talking about.
So that's just for my references, okay? Can you identify what this full document is? Just look through it, peruse it, and then tell me if you know what it is.
There's an affidavit on the front page. There's a copy of my CV.
Which is very much like a resume for anyone that does know that term, correct?
Yes. There's a copy of autopsy report this evening.
testing.
Toxicology report.
Testing.
Looks like the contents of the case file, probably.
sure do. Sorry,
My button got switched. Okay.
Fingerprints of the decedent.
She should know what time the body arrived, where it came from, who it came from. They should have all that documentation right at hand.
Copy of
Why they do not, I do not know.
copy of the disc. And some photographs.
Do those photographs look familiar?
There is a hum. I don't know if y'all can hear, but I feel a and I think it's coming from their feed. It's not from mine. I've got a clean feed. Let me try and switch. Yeah, it's definitely in their feed, not in mine. Oh, sorry about that, y'all.
Yes, they're autopsy photographs for the decedent.
Would that be the ones that you talked about that you took?
Yes. And there's pictures of property, it looks like. And tattoos.
Which was the tattoos were found on the decedent's body?
Yes. And the photograph of the decedent.
Okay. You didn't bring this full file, did you?
That's correct.
Okay, so if you need it for any reason to reference it, please let me know, okay?
Yes.
So you just brought in a few pages of your ultimate findings, right?
I brought in my autopsy report.
Okay, but you're responsible for the other things that were in this full file, right? Like the photos,
Our office is,
okay, which you took the photos, correct?
I took some of those photos, yes.
Not all of the photos, though.
These were detective photos, did you?
No, but there's other people employed in my office that take photographs as well.
Yeah,
But
it's
you
not one
are
person's
the
job.
lead in this medical examination of this deceased, correct?
Correct?
I'm the physician who performed the autopsy.
Okay. And so you also helped with collecting any stuff like blood or other fluids of the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
I collected blood for toxicology testing, and vitreous fluid and urine for toxicology testing. At the,
Lower people on the totem pole do
And
the
the lab
fluid
came back and
extractions,
gets put
except
into the file, correct?
the results of the testing are put into a toxicology report that is returned to us and becomes part of the file.
And it was in here, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I'm referencing again, AAA, Defense AAA. So a file is created upon receiving a person for a possible autopsy, and then the different areas come together, work together, and create this file, basically. Would that be a simplistic way of saying it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Now, and I do like to keep it somewhat simplistic because, you know a lot, you're a doctor, you have a lot of education, don't you?
I'm a physician.
A medical doctor?
She's not even
Same thing?
looking at the woman.
Sure.
Okay.
She's not happy.
And you've never talked to me before, have you?
No.
Okay.
She doesn't like her. Look how hurt she's being.
No? Okay, thank you.
Mom, your ears
Um,
told me.
understand something. You did your work, started conducting your work, you said on February 1st, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And yet, the deceased was probably transferred upon death and brought to your department, your office. Would that be fair to say?
Can you repeat the question, please?
If the police department, law enforcement suspect some fact.
Yes.
Okay. And so January 30th, a body was discovered.
Okay, guys, I gotta stop here. She is so irritated with the defense's questions, attorney's questions. It's like,
Ma'am, I have already answered these questions. You know, I told you I am a doctor. I told you when I did the autopsy. Why are you asking these questions again?
she's so irritated with this woman. I love it.
Covered, and then somewhere within hours or whatever happened, the medical examiner's office would receive it either later on January 30th or very early on January 31st, correct?
Yes.
And I'm going to assume that a body is placed in a cooler of some sort, correct?
Typically, yes.
Okay. And it's an individual cooler. I've never been to your establishment, but where the body is laying on a table and slides into this cooler?
It's not an individual cooler. It's
They
a
have walk-ins.
cooler.
They have walk-ins, y'all.
Separated.
Walk-in coolers.
Body bags on individual tables.
And they all are ID'd, I would assume, correct?
Or if they have too many like LA, they have bunk bed
There's a lot
style.
of unidentified individuals.
Do you give it a number?
Yes.
Okay, so it is ID'd in some format, whether you know who they are before or something that you do internally, correct?
They're given an identification.
There's a
number,
code
yes.
tag.
Say name, ma'am, I said ID'd. Or it's identification, ID is short for identification, correct?
Ooh!
Yes.
Okay. So that's so you don't mix up bodies and get the wrong results, correct?
Yes.
I mean, that wouldn't be very good if you had results of someone else's autopsy for this body. That wouldn't be very good, would it?
Nope.
No.
So there are internal controls to prevent that. Is that right?
Correct.
Why are you going there? She's thinking.
Now, does the fact that, and I don't know, I'm going to rely on your expertise here. Does the fact that a body that's placed in some form of cooler,
She's so irritated.
does that change the timeline of things that one would expect to see as you go through the breakdown of decomposing upon death?
It slows it down.
What was the question?
Does the refrigeration, the cooler,
How many times we need, this is great. We need a
change
counter.
or
I got a counter.
alter
I got
or
a counter.
prevent
Not on the screen, but
anything
loud.
about the decomposing of a body after, passing on?
Bodies are cooled to slow the decomposition process.
Thank you. Okay, so isn't it true, though, that there are a process of decomposing that happens upon death of each of us?
I'll be right back, y'all.
Decomposition occurs after death.
And that is a changing process?
It's a process of decomposition.
And does it stay the same or does it change?
In comparison to what?
Well, how about overall appearance, overall temperature, all the things that you think about when it comes to rigor, stuff like that?
I'm not sure what the question is.
When a person passes, does the body change through the different process that the body goes through, whether it's rigor, body temperature, and other things that you might expect to see as the body starts to decompose?
There are changes that the body goes through after death that are part of the decomposition process.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's start off. What was the time of death on this, please?
The time of death is 18-24 hours.
Okay, so you, in this report, notes that it's 1824 exact, correct?
That's the time of death.
Okay. And what is, let's clarify for anyone, one that is not military time savvy, what does 1824 mean?
6:24 p.m.
Okay. And what does it mean by exact?
That's the time the body was pronounced dead.
Okay. And 1824 is 6:24 p.m., not a.m., correct?
p.m.
And do you know where that comes from?
Military time. What kind of question is that?
Pronouncement time
Yes, please.
is when someone has notified the overseeing agency that has someone that pronounces them dead.
Okay.
I'm not sure what happens in San Luis County, who pronounces death there.
Okay. Now, you testified that you gather information, and the state asked you some questions about it. Hold on 1 second. And then you try to basically, take this information that you gather and then determine how it fits with what your findings are, right?
Generally speaking, yes.
Correlating was the word that the state used. You remember that?
Yes.
And you defined it?
Yes.
Okay. And when you saw, I'm gonna call him Gabriel because I think it's easier for you to say it too. The deceased named Gabriel.
We're good.
Were you able to determine when you looked at the body, how long has the body been dead? I mean, are you able to assess if that's an accurate time?
In other words, could it have passed away at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in 110 degree heat or 30 degree weather? What is your body temperature time of death?
Findings in that the body was cold, and that rigor mortis was fully fixed in the muscles of the jaw and extremities, and there was faint fixed pink rigor mortis over the posterior surface of the body, except in areas exposed to pressure.
And what does that tell you?
So those are the postmortem changes that are examined on the decedents that come into our office. Upon death, people cool to ambient temperature. So if you're in a warmer environment, your body is going to eventually cool to the temperature of that environment. The muscles become fixed after people die. And that's the rigor mortis. They become fixed up into a point in which they reach their maximum fixed. And when I say fixed, it means that if you try to manipulate the body, you won't be able to, or you'll have to use great force to counteract the fixation of those muscles in that position. So there's a certain point where it's going to reach its maximum, and then it's going to start to fade away again. And then the third is the lividity or livor mortis, which is the pooling of the blood after death. It is the discoloration that you see, can be misinterpreted for bruising, but it's really just like a purplish pink color.
Where the blood pools at the lowest part of the body after death because the heart's not pumping it anymore.
In which you see that discoloration, but blood cannot pool in areas that are up against something firm. So you'll see areas of pallor or paleness that are up against a firm surface, so the blood can't come there. Up until about 12 hours, when you push on it, it will push away, and so it blanches. After around 12 hours,
No mas.
after you push on it, it won't go away. So these are all things that we examine to help understand how long someone may have been dead.
And
With the
what did you
caveat
determine?
that they're all variable from individual to individual, and they're influenced by environmental factors. They're influenced by why the person is dead. So someone who is...
Okay, let me ask you another question. That was very thorough, thank you. But let's break
Rein her
it
in.
down. That's a lot of information for people that don't understand the science like you know it. So the question was going back to when you get to see the body, when you started to perform your autopsy, which of those levels or timelines was this body at that point in time when you started?
Well, we know that the body was pronounced dead at 6:30, then at 6:24 the night prior. I did the autopsy at 8:30 a.m. And the body had been in a cooler, and I documented the body was cold. Makes sense.
So does that not make it difficult to know about the hour timeline that has taken place? Let me give you an example. Maybe this will be more clear for you to understand me. My understanding is if the body's warm and stiff, that may represent a certain amount of hours, say 3 to 8 hours. Don't know if I'm exactly not right.
Aren't we?
So the fact that the body's been in the cooler, how would you know if it's been within 3 to 8 hours, if that was true?
Typically, if that's a concern, that's something that should be assessed at the scene. If there is a concern as to the time of the injury, versus the
Body temperature should have been taken at the scene to determine if it had laid there for 4 or 5 hours.
That's a good point. If time was an issue, okay, could someone get to you being the medical examiner, okay? Could someone, law enforcement, get to you expressing the urgency in determining the time by having you look at the body, urgent?
We employ a team of investigators, medical legal death investigators, that respond to scenes where those people that are deceased, that will examine the postmortem changes and document that.
They did not do that on this case.
Okay, in the event they used your county for hypothetical purposes, if that was an issue before law enforcement, they could get someone to either come out to the scene or look at the body as upon its arrival. How would that might look like?
They come out to the scene, they would take body temperature, note, rigor mortis, all that stuff.
Somebody to respond to a scene.
Okay.
And then they would know
Again,
a more precise
findings
time
are
of day.
variable, and it's not an exact science.
I understand that, but if you put a body in a cooler, you're taking away any chances of having some sort of estimate of time that the body has been deceased, correct?
In assessing exact postmortem changes, that's not even an exact science.
I understand, but there's usually a range that goes with it. For example,
Oh, she is so irritated.
the research that I've seen says it could be 3 to 8 hours. If that was true, let me go to the next one. Correct me anywhere where I'm just totally off. If the body is cold and stiff, now you might go from 8 to 36 hours. And then the last one is an example, if it's cold and
All right,
stiff,
she's testifying
now you've gone past
and not
that
asking a question.
rigor stage, and now you're at 36 plus hours.
Objection,
So
Your Honor.
correct?
No
Yeah,
question asked.
Those are ranges that I've seen in the literature.
Okay. And so by putting a body into the cooler, so to speak,
You slow down that process.
than I do. You're altering the potential of showing the warmth of that body, meaning the body might be fresh within, if those numbers were correct, 3 to 8 hours, rather than
8
now
to
being
36.
altered with a cooler that might show it's cold and stiff, changing the times from 8 to 36. Isn't that possible?
Yeah, it's going to be cooled because it's in a cooler, but we also know there's passage of time.
So when someone just gets put into the medical examiner's, placed into the cooler until the time of the autopsy is performed,
Are
we're
we beating a
losing
dead horse?
potential information of biological indicators of time of death.
You lose them.
Right?
It's being slowed, yeah.
Okay, it's being slowed by the cooler, but now we have altered what's natural.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
She wants off there so bad, y'all.
So all you could go with is the time that someone reported the time of death to you.
Correct.
Correct?
The time of death is the time of pronouncement, yes.
Okay. And so, just to conclude this area of topic, you have pronouncement, but you can't tell me the approximate time of death of the deceased Gabriel in this case, right?
Correct.
Not exactly, no.
Okay. Would you concur that the time of death could have been 6-something? 6:24?
That's the time of death, yes.
So, but
That can't be the time of
your
death.
assessment.
He was
I'm
dead
comfortable with
before they arrived. I mean, that's not the time of death, y'all. That's just the time that he was pronounced.
I'm asking medical inquiry to the time of death through your evaluation. Does it seem, you said that you go through this process of evaluating what you learn and what you observe. I'm asking, what did you observe? Does that seem reasonable?
Yes. It doesn't seem like he's been dead for 4 days.
Okay, but 6:24 is a reasonable time, that's all I'm asking.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's take a little breather here. Oh my gosh, this medical examiner is so irritated with the defense. And I get where the defense is going. If, say, 12 o'clock, gunshots were heard on the property, and I don't have the exact time, but hypothetically, if 12 o'clock is heard, gunshots are heard on the property, 2 o'clock, 1:30, whatever, they've done the search, they can't find a victim, can't find anything, then at 6 o'clock, the rancher finds the body, they pronounce it at 6:24 as deceased, he's laid there for 6 hours. I guess that's what the defense is getting to. You don't know how long he laid there prior to them pronouncing him deceased. You know it wasn't 3 or 4 days due to composition, but you don't know if it's 4 hours, 6 hours, or 8 hours. Because once the body was placed in the cooler, it really slowed down the decomposition of the body. And that medical examiner is irritated as hell. I like it. She wants off that stand. She won't even look at
I'm
him.
not sure everyone here has lived here forever, but what city is Pima County in?
Tucson is in Pima County.
Okay. And is that where the office is located?
Pima County Medical Examiner's office is in Tucson.
Thank you very much.
So we need to know how long did it travel between the ranch
You
and
said you had
Tucson?
numerous people there watching the autopsy, correct?
Correct.
The detectives, the prosecutor. Do you have help with staff while you're conducting it?
Yes.
How many people do you normally have help you?
Typically 1 or 2.
Okay. And just basically, what's their role?
Oh, she's not going to like this.
Doing the paperwork, printing off labels, putting labels on body fluids that I collect, helping with the collection of evidence, doing the evidentiary form, releasing the evidence to the investigating
Basically a note taker or scribe.
Maybe helping with photographs if their gloves are clean and mine are dirty, and helping with the investigation process and
Weighing the organs,
to the body
weight.
and filling the body up, transporting the body to and from the cooler, and helping with anything else that I might need along the way.
She will not look at the defense
If
attorney.
you were a surgeon and you would have physician assistants or nursing that would be assisting in you overseeing and doing your medical procedures, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Now, on your findings, you list 2 points. Can you revisit those 2? What are they?
Perforating gunshot wound of trunk with skeletal, soft tissue, vascular, and visceral injuries. And number 2 is cutaneous abrasions and contusions.
Okay, I think we talked a little bit about first finding. What is the second finding about?
And there were other injuries that I noted and documented on the skin.
And you explained in the process that you go through an autopsy that the first thing you do is like an assessment of the outer parts of the body, correct?
Correct.
And I would assume that's when you noted some abrasions.
Correct.
And in layman's terms, is an abrasion like a scraping of the skin?
Yes.
Yep.
Just like a skin knee would be an abrasion?
Correct.
Okay, so something that scrapes against it caused some kind of markings, correct?
Or it scrapes against something.
Yeah.
Yes. One or the other contacts each other, but it causes the scraping. Correct, right? And so,
Any damage to the skin that's not a full cut, but a scrap? Paper cut? Scrap?
where
Falling
in
on
the
the
report do you have
Jeez.
noted some abrasions?
Under evidence of injury infection
No.
on page 4.
Where on the
Page
body?
4, can you please tell us out loud?
Elbow,
what are those
hands,
located?
forehead.
The bridge of the nose, the right forearm, the left knee, and the front of the left leg.
So that all could have happened when he fell. Face forward.
Now, when you say the front, I imagine there's the part above the knee and a part below. Did you note it in any particular location? Upper leg or lower leg?
It's the thigh and the leg. The thigh is above the knee, the leg is below the knee.
Thank you. I don't remember my science that well. Thank you.
Oh, Lord have mercy. This is getting to be too good.
I'd like to approach this witness, Your Honor, with defense PP, Paul. Okay, can you please look at these photos yourself? There's a few of them in there. Turn the pages, look at them, and see if you can identify these photos. Okay, and what are they, what do they depict?
Pictures from the autopsy.
From the what, ma'am?
The autopsy,
Okay. And does it reflect the locations of these abrasions that you were noting?
the first picture corresponds to the second injury on the right forearm. The second picture corresponds to the fourth and fifth injuries on the left knee and leg. The third picture corresponds to the first injury on the nasal bridge, as does the fourth picture.
Okay, so these photos accurately depict the photos that you or someone in your team took of these abrasions, correct?
And contusion.
And contusion. Okay, at this time, Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence PP.
Why is my hearing aid down? There we go. Whew, I couldn't hear. Trying to fix it. Would help if it would plugged in all the way. Oh, y'all, this woman is not liking her cross-examination at all. And you know that prosecution and her went through this evidence before she testified. It's prepping the witness. They all do. They practice it.
What are we looking at? And we'll call this a first photo in my stapled group here. What are we looking at on this one?
In the middle of the screen is the abrasion on the right forearm. The hand is going to be on the right side of the screen as you're looking at it. And the shoulder, elbow region will be towards
I am not showing it just in case the camera person's not that great.
The hand, which is looking at the screen to the right, and to the left would be the rest of the arm, correct? So this is just above the wrist.
correct.
Okay.
All right, I know it's upsetting some of y'all. If it remotely comes in focus, I'm taking it
The palm
out.
is facing down and the back of the hand is facing towards the top of the screen.
So this appears to be the side arm above the wrist,
The forearm,
the forearm, and side of the arm above the wrist, the forearm.
side of the forearm.
Thank you.
Right there. I don't know why they don't just keep the camera on the witness. That's what most of them do. But the lady said yes on Thursday that she was a new camera person to the team. And so she was still learning.
Okay.
Not a time for them to do that.
Looking at
Oh,
here.
oh, camera woman. See exactly what I'm talking about.
We'll call this.
On the left side of the screen is the thighs, with the knees, and then the anterior side of the legs and the feet.
Interior
The
outside.
left leg is towards the top of the screen, the right leg is towards the bottom of the screen, and you can see an area of red, purple discoloration that is the injury right on the left knee, as well as an additional area on the anterior surface of the left leg.
Is that here?
Correct.
So I pointed to the left knee, and below that, another injury. There's nothing on the right side?
That's correct.
So those injuries he had sustained when he fell, or those injuries due from an altercation before he was shot? That's what they need to be asking.
Well, we've seen this with the state exhibit, but since it's in my packet, I'm going to show it again. And we'll move to C.
We're going to do this until I know that it's out of focus.
Seen before.
This is a front picture of the deceiving face, and you can see the area of injury on the bridge of the nose.
Could that have happened before or after the shot?
Zoomed it in.
Is this consistent with a fight, or is it consistent with a fall? I should have been an attorney.
Yes.
Apologize, I have to show the jurors all this, but I'm going to give the last one through D.
Like I said, until I know it's going to be blurred, I'm not going to put it up. Yeah.
This is a right lateral picture of the face.
Okay. And does it also show and reflect the nose
Yes.
and the injuries being up in this area right here where I'm pointing?
Correct.
And these are abrasions?
That's an abrasion, yes.
A bruise is usually from impact, right? And it causes some form of bleeding under the skin.
A bruise is a contusion, which is also a type of blunt force injury.
So a contusion is bleeding underneath the skin
A
that
bruise.
allows us to see off-colored.
A contusion is bleeding underneath intact skin.
Okay, so there's no open wound usually with a contusion.
Correct.
Not with a straightforward contusion, no.
But an abrasion is more not of a direct impact, but more of a scraping of, correct?
It's blunt force injury, so it just has a different appearance. It's the loss of a superficial layer of skin.
It's a minor,
That's an abrasion or a scrape.
and something causes that resistance to cause it to have that appearance versus just a bruise, correct?
And they're both a result of blunt force injury, blunt trauma. If
Right.
something impacted
The
body,
bruise does not
there's
cause
something
any opening of the skin or damage to the outer layer of the skin.
And scrape along
It's bleeding under the skin.
or whatever,
Abrasion,
versus just
there's damage to the outer layer
might
of the
just
skin
cause
of the
bruises,
bruise
correct?
underneath.
There's different variables that play a role in it. If it's against a rough surface and it just fell down, you still may have an abrasion from it.
Can dragging cause an abrasion?
Yes?
Yes.
When the body comes in, is the body naked, or do you have clothing on it as it was, when it arrives?
Should have the clothing on it.
It depends on where the body comes from.
So in this case, do you know if the body was clothed before you did your job?
Yes, the body was received clothed.
I got my puppers down here. So you see me blowing kisses, it's not at the floor.
So if there was a photo that showed tears in the clothing and underneath it an abrasion, does that support the fact that there could have been like skinning the knee, that type of injury?
Blunt force?
Yes.
So in other words, if there's a tear above the abrasion, then supports that something came in contact with resistance to that area, correct?
Like being dragged.
Thank you. Did you note any of that in your observations, or was that not your job to do that?
I don't look at clothing.
So you have no idea if this body has been dragged. You can't say one way or the other, correct?
Correct.
But it's possible?
Yes.
Okay. Now, but didn't you testify about clothing and the bullet defect and the regular defect? Did you have some testimony about that?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
He's saying, please let me off the stand.
Directionality of these bullet holes that you've observed. You don't know which way the subject would have been standing or sitting or doing whatever. You're not here to testify. You have any knowledge of that, correct? Correct. Okay. What about the angle of this wound? Are you here? You do know there was an angle from the entrance to the exit, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, may I do a demonstrative thing with the court? My new friend. We're going to bring out.
Any objections?
May I approach the witness?
Oh, this is fun. Yeah, baby. Let's do that. They're bringing a skeleton and a pointer. We have visual aid, my dear friends. Woohoo! Oh, this reminds me of school. Aww.
This is not a real human being, right?
No, it's plastic. But get yourself mic'd.
Sure, though.
But it is anatomically correct from what you see, correct?
Yes.
Skeletal system, yes.
So I'm a visual person. I know jurors can be too. So what I'd like to ask you, if you would step down from your seat and help demonstrate this. Okay?
Sure.
She's like, please, I'm not your monkey. This is not my circus. And I have a monkey, so I can say that. She really doesn't like what's going on. And the court tech is given a mic. Both of them need the mic, not one. Oh,
We're going to use this rod, and I want you to point out that you hold it while you start your talk. You talked about some damages or beveling of the ribs. Let's back up a little bit. Explain beveling one more time.
Beveling is when the bullet hits it, it
Beveling
bows
is
out.
a fracture pattern seen on flat bones.
What does that mean? Why does it do that? Why do you have that pattern?
It's the way the bullet passes through the flat bones and pushes.
So the bone's like this, the bullet hits it, it's going to bow in the direction it's been hit, and it
It's almost
breaks.
like a polishing type thing that it does to it. Is that similar or something different?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. Is it a direct impact or a skimming of that location to cause that?
It can be both.
Okay. Now, when you talk about rib numbers, how do you count ribs to know which rib we're talking about?
From the top down.
Okay. And you said there was an entrance wound where? Rib number, if you do look at your report, we can get that for you.
Yeah, I don't have it memorized.
She's done so many autopsies, guys, she can't remember which report, what rib. I mean, I get it. But she should have reviewed all this before today. She's trying to find it in her report.
Posterolateral right 6 through 8 ribs.
Okay. Point right now where that would be.
These 3 ribs here, 6, 7, and 8. This is kind of the posterolateral region. These ribs.
But the bullet
Still kind of high up.
looked a little low.
The size of the person, right?
I don't have an opinion to that.
Okay. Now, where is the exit wound?
I thought it was lower, y'all. Because they were showing it down here on the body.
Anterior, left, second.
So it was here.
The sternum, it fractured.
Came out of there.
And this area, the second rib.
Can you put this rod through the location of the entrance as close as you can and show where it would look like where the bullet exited the place?
So it's going to go in right about there.
Roughly in that area.
Now, you named 3 ribs where it entered in. Where did you place it between those 3?
Below the 7.
Now, so you said 6 through 8, right?
Correct.
So you just took the middle row for that, correct? Yeah. Okay. Why would a bullet hit 3 ribs?
Because of the velocity associated with it.
What about the angle? Turn them a little bit just so girls can see a different perspective. If something was lower and into an upward movement, is it possible that the angle caused the impact damage to more than one rib?
How in the hell could he have been shot standing up from that angle?
If I was down low, shooting upward,
Sorry, I was taking
is it
screenshots.
possible the projectile hit more than one rib, causing the fracture or the break?
You would expect a more direct or upward trajectory for that to happen. It would have gone this way, not crossing the line.
Do the ribs and all bones affect the possibility of a change in the direction? Is that possible?
It could hit here on the upper rib and bounce up like a check mark.
Will? Yeah, okay. Ribs and all the bones affect the possibility of a change in the direction? Is that possible?
Fractures and going through bone are going to change the projectile.
Will? Yeah, okay. So once the bullet comes through, and hits the body, going past the skin and hitting, say, a rib or a bone, could that alter the change to some degree? Is that what you're saying? Yes?
Yes.
Well, it altered the trajectory from when it was outside the body to when it was inside the body.
So it could impact here. It could have come in this way, hit the bone, and ricocheted
so not only
upward.
did it hit these three ribs by the sign of the injury, right? And it went through soft tissue after, correct?
Before.
After it hit, it went through soft tissue, then hit the ribs.
Correct.
Okay, then it went through some more soft tissue or organs,
Organ.
like the heart,
Lung.
first, okay, and that's soft tissue, correct? But ultimately passing through, it hit another set of ribs before it exited, correct?
It hit the sternum and then the second rib.
Okay, tell us what a sternum is.
It's the flat bone, like your breastbone. It's the sternum.
Okay, so let me look and see what you're pointing at. So it's the center bone that kind of connects the ribs and joins them together?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I point to my front right here, what am I likely to be near my sternum?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm illustrating the center mass of my chest. Okay, and so it hits that bone, and then where on this was there another possible fracture or broken bone?
The second rib is broke, so it comes through here.
And what part of the bone did you notice that injury?
The anterior, right? Peristernal.
Close to the sternum.
Yes.
Versus where on the back? Let me flip our guy around. Becomes easy. Where on this ribs did you notice the injury? Like inner, closer to the spine, outer? Give me an idea there.
Right where I have it, posterolateral.
Okay, that was an easy one for you to put through. Because that's where you saw it, right? Correct? Okay. We got a question answer. All right, you can sit down. Thank you. Now, I know you're not here to explain or give explanations, but would it be unreasonable to think that the directionality of this bullet could have been at a lower elevation? Is that possible?
I'm not familiar with bullets in elevation.
But it starts lower, correct? The entrance, and proceeds upward, correct?
That's the trajectory through the body.
Right. So if I was sitting right here on the floor and very low, it's possible that it would, just common sense, that it would follow this pattern of entrance and exit, correct?
That's a possibility.
So if someone is at a lower elevation, is it possible? I'm not making you the expert, I'm just speaking with your knowledge and common sense that this could have been a lower elevation shot that caused it go from down to upward, correct?
Why do I not hear myself? Testing, testing. Well, testing.
Now, I know you're not here
Testing.
to explain or give explanations, but would it be unreasonable
Testing.
to think that the directionality of this bullet could have been at a lower elevation? Is that possible?
I'm not familiar with bullets in elevation.
But it starts lower, correct? The entrance, and proceeds upward, correct?
That's the trajectory through the body.
Right. Starts lower, correct? The entrance, and proceeds upward, correct?
That's the trajectory through the body.
Right. So if I was sitting right here on the floor, very low, it's possible
There
that
we
it
go.
just
Hallelujah.
that it would fall.
Someone is
fall
finally saying what I have said
correct?
all along.
That's a possibility.
So if someone is at a lower elevation, is it possible? I'm not making you the expert. I'm just speaking with your knowledge and
Test.
common sense that this could have been a lower elevation shot that caused it go from down to upward, correct?
The body was in a upright position, yes.
Okay. And there's other explanations, right?
Innumerable.
Right. And the problem is, you don't know, correct?
I don't know I know the trajectory of the bullet through the body.
Right. And we can see it now with this rod in there, that it starts low and goes high. That we do know, correct?
Yes.
And so all the possibilities that could be out there, we just don't know how this happened, right?
I do not.
Right. Now, you
Good
told us
job.
testified about the amount of blood that was retained in this body upon your autopsy, correct?
Correct.
You also talked about a couple different ways that one might pass. One, you mentioned, like say they're shot in their head. What does that do as far as longevity of that person?
It's highly variable. People can survive gunshot wounds to the head.
Depends where it is.
Yes.
Um,
I know someone who was shot through and
if the
through
bullet
and lived.
affects the central nervous system, would they be able to abstain for any length of time?
Yes.
How long?
Well, they can live. They can survive gunshot wounds to the brain.
Is it possible that that body would drop immediately?
That's possible, yes.
Okay. And what about if someone is just kind of bleeding out? Just internal organs, soft tissue organs, and causes of bleeding out. Could that be more of a longevity as far as how long someone can function?
What you're describing is like hemorrhage?
Yes, internal bleeding, hemorrhage.
Yeah.
If you hit the aorta, you're not living long.
Other than that, it all just depends on whether aid is rendered and the underlying health conditions that the person has. And there's many variables that affect. One person might die from hemorrhage pretty quickly, and another person might live long enough to have aid rendered and survive it.
Well, I'm not talking about death as much as functioning upon receiving the injury. Okay, with internal bleeding, isn't it possible that a person can continue to walk for some time?
Some people, yes.
Okay, and if a person, it depends on how much they're bleeding, and you testified a little earlier about that. What did you testify about?
She doesn't know. She's so tired. She wants off the stand.
You talked about it earlier.
About what?
About when someone is bleeding and how long they can last.
It depends on the person and what they're bleeding from.
So if a person can walk 1 mile per hour, for example, all right, something very slow, and then they are bleeding out at whatever rate, is it possible that they can go yards before they fall?
Yes.
Okay. And so with this type of injury, it's different than a spinal column injury or something that might take the person into a position of lights out. You know what I mean? In other words, they have a chance that they may still survive for some X period of time, depending, correct?
They could still have movement, versus if there was a spinal cord injury, they would be incapacitated pretty rapidly. This is a aorta injury, which could be a rapid incapacitation, but there's a potential that there may have been movement after as well.
Okay? And that movement could have been feet, maybe even yards, possibility, right?
Yes?
Okay? So just because this person falls down right there doesn't mean that's where they were shot with this type of injury, correct?
True.
Correct.
So what she's getting at is he could have been shot and continued
And
walking
he said that he lost...
as long as he had enough blood in him to keep him moving.
Around the heart, correct? Of blood.
Milliliters.
I'm sorry. Thank you. And about how much is that in a cup or some other measurement that we can relate to it?
Probably a couple of these.
Okay, can you hold that up for everyone to see? And you have raised from your table little like Dixie cup type things that
That's
you
probably 6 ounces.
have water, right? So you're saying about 2 of those.
Yeah, approximately. I don't know how many ounces these are.
Okay, and this is around the heart, and then you also testified that in the chest cavity, you also were able to collect 340 milliliters, correct?
Correct.
And give me how many cups of those would that be?
That'd be that whole water pitcher.
6 times, 7 times.
Okay? Now,
The entire water pitcher.
the clothing can act like a sponge that's around it, absorbing the blood from the location of a bullet hole, right?
Yes.
And the clothing in this case had some blood on it, right?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Yes, it
And-
did.
Have you seen any photos of
Back
blood
and
on
back.
the ground?
I have not, no.
Nope.
Would it be surprising to you, based on knowing how this bleeding out is taking place, that there was very little blood on the ground?
Especially when he's lying face down with the exit wound on the ground.
And is it possible that the
Okay. When he fell down, I've been on a lot of accident scenes, so I'm going to say this as a possibility. It's plausible that when he fell, the pressure from him laying on the ground where the exit wound was could have put enough pressure just from the weight of his own body to keep the blood from seeping out rapidly, thus building up in the cavity. Just saying, when he's vertical, the blood's going to, if he's hemorrhaging, it's going to go to the lower part of the body because of gravity and fill up. But if he's laying down, then it would, and there's enough pressure, there's some leakage, I'm sure, but not a lot, then it won't leak out until there's enough blood to go out the exit wound, entrance wound.
bleeding that you would think you would see could have been all maintained internally in this body?
But I will say,
Yes.
if he was shot there, you would
And
see a
that
spray
counts
of
for the large
blood.
amount of blood that you're seeing in areas that are normally not with that type of amount of blood, right?
There was no blood splatter from the gunshot wound, which leads me to believe he was shot elsewhere and walked some distance. This poor woman, I say poor woman, she is not a happy camper. You could tell by the body language she's ready to get off the stand. She's definitely was more comfortable with the prosecution at this point. But
Now, do you remember, when you analyze the outer parts of the body upon the start of your examination, do you look for things and objects that normally would not be normally found there?
Yes.
And did you notice in this case there was lots of debris on or around the body?
yes. Huh, a little lacy brows showing
Yes.
through. Not appropriate for court. I'm sorry, I can't help but saying this. It's just eagle eye.
witness. Let me show you.
Just in case, y'all. We're not going to see it. Yep, I was afraid of that. The camera person got it. And they're almost getting oh, jury, come on, camera woman. Man, whoever you are, get it together, y'all. Okay, I'm going to bring us
Let
back.
me show you what's been marked as
Oh, good for her. She turned it over.
OO. Defense OO. Does this photo that I'm showing you on top of part A reflect the type of debris you found?
I describe it as particulate debris, so I see some particulate debris in the photo, yes.
Okay. And let's skip one more. Does this photo reflect the amount of blood on the clothing that was found, observed by you?
I don't know.
Okay, skip B. Let's see.
I'm surprised she doesn't know. She should know what was on the clothing. The body came in with clothing.
In the medical examiner's office, is this photo taken? Does this appear to be?
It appears to have a body bag in the background, so yes.
Okay. And does that reflect, again, the particles that was observed with the body on your examination?
Yes.
Okay, is there more photos of that? And then that, the next one, same thing, just different view?
Yes.
And that one.
Yes.
No! Dude, y'all need to be more careful with the photos. I know some people love that blood and gore, but not here. It's not appropriate. I absolutely love, I'm going to do a screenshot just because it's a good one. I hate that that woman's behind it. I might be able to move her out of it. That's a good screenshot, y'all. I'm taking screenshots because I can use this in my... I'm pulling. There. I really like this defense team. They are on the ball. I really like and appreciate how they are being very thorough. I know people were getting tired of them asking some of the same questions, but she's impeached a few questions. I mean, she's gone through and I really hate that they're showing the images. It is so not fair to the families. I'm going to do that just to make sure. Oh, come on. I can see it. Stop. Okay.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, I would like to enter into evidence. Defense Exhibit 00, entering into the state to see what I've taken out.
I'm removing it because the camera is too close. There we go. The camera zoomed out in. The camera person is not being a preemptive videographer. They're reactionary.
Thank you, Judge Nick. Publish.
So they objected. Now they're overruled. They can publish. I'm going to turn her up more. There we go. Oh, let's not do that. Once again,
I'm showing you a photo A for the picture of the right hand. Were you aware that the right hand was under the body? It was also probably still had, the stiffness of that body, right? Did you observe the body being bent, arm being bent? No. You have no knowledge that this right arm was under the body upon observation of it.
That's correct.
Okay. But I'm going to show you a photo from your location where the right arm, would you agree it is the right arm, right hand?
This is a picture of the right hand, yes.
Okay. And the debris that the hand is holding, correct?
That's on the hand, yes.
Okay. Which appears to be some kind of straw-like, long, grass-like material, correct?
Some of it is
so he's holding on to something.
What else is it?
more granular.
Leave it blurred.
Okay. So let's point that out. So the top, right there, all over. Could this, thank you for, okay. Are you familiar that the terrain was in an environment like that? Did you have any knowledge of that?
Yeah, I mean, most of our cases come from the desert.
Okay, so this reflects that type of environment, correct? Right. Now, there is all kinds of particles kind of stuck to his hand, and there are things in his hand, and that includes this straw-like rasp material, correct? Yes. And the hand is somewhat closed or clenching in some form, right? That's how the photo looks.
There's an inflection of the fingers in the picture, yes.
Okay?
And so if you get shot and you go down instantly, you're sacrificed. You're not going to defend.
Stiffen in the position it was last in.
Typically, yes.
In other words, the hand doesn't move while you're dead, right?
So if you fall, you're
And so this could reflect someone,
if,
I don't know.
I'm going to pull this down a little bit. I'm covering it. I don't know why I'm not hearing myself. If you fall, you're going to fall with your hands in front of you. There will be abrasions and grafts and stuff in them. If you're shot and you just do keel over,
I mean, there's
you're not going to have any self-defensive wounds.
But in my hypothetical, it's
Meaning he was alive.
possible.
if the body had been there for enough time to pass so that rigor mortis had started, then yes.
Okay? But if someone's being dragged and grabs onto things and then passes, the results of it could still remain in the hand, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And I understand, that's one hypothetical. Let me show you the next photo.
She's getting what she needs.
So we'll call this B. Again, reflecting the same thing, the same right hand, correct?
Okay, I can't show this. It's
And
showing.
the environment kind of sticking to the paw or the top of the hand, correct?
Yeah.
And a stick or something being clenched by the hand, correct?
Poking out of the interdigitory space, yes.
Thank you.
Sometimes blurring it out is not enough.
A little bit different angle, but same shot. My last one, we'll call it C.
Okay.
Any idea? I mean, is this more clenched or just a different angle?
All the same.
Okay, I think it's a little bit different. You? Okay.
I know this may irritate y'all, and some of the channels may just leave it rocking and rolling, but I won't. I do not wish to have certain parts of that out there for the world to see. I don't believe appropriate.
Now, you mentioned that you get a
Council, it sounds like you're moving into a new area. It's 2:45. This is a good time to take a break. We'll take our mid-afternoon break.
Yay, I want to talk about this a little bit. Okay, guys. We are on break. Yay! We are on break. Let's get some little music going. Stretch a little bit. Wake up a little bit. I'm supposed to be bigger. Don't forget, my little Highland over here needs a nickname. Waiting for someone to help me name. You see my little pupper's head right there. Okay, guys, so here's the deal. I absolutely loved the demonstrative. Jeez. I mean, the only thing that I can possibly say that potentially could have happened is when the bullet came in, it was more of a straight and hit the top of the rib, and that angled it upward. But the damage that she's describing within the ribs on the side right here is not conducive to that. I can't get comfortable. So I am really happy they did that. That was awesome. Awesome sauce. I gotta find the images. Let me open up something and see. Any downloads? Nope. Come back. Oh. Okay, guys, we're going to take a little break. I'm going to get that music going. I'll be right back, okay? Okay, I apologize. Why am I not in my ears? Hello? Ugh. There we go. I think I just got to manipulate a little, wake it up. That didn't last long, did it? Now let's see. No, I still don't hear me. Testing, 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 testing. Hello? Hello? Where's my mouse? Unmute. Unmute. Testing. I'm going to play a video and see if I can hear it, because this is unnerving. Test. 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 Well, guys, I guess I'm not going to hear myself, but at least can hear the sound of the music on the video. So that's good. Let me put my mic up to where it needs to be. Wow. I may have to send my little thing in. Hallelujah. Yep, I got a short. Okay, there we go. Let's see if I can hear this. Yep, okay. We got it, y'all. Technology. Okay, I gotta fix this. This says be right back. And then that's it. Ah, that's what happened. Okay. Okay, I got it. Okay. So what I needed to do was do this one and do that. All right. Well, we're back to the normal. Okay, y'all. So, with everything that's going on, there's a road so far today. We have had the young Border Patrol agent was cross-examined today. And then we had another Border Patrol agent examined today. And then we have had most of the afternoon and day today. We have had the medical examiner. Now, in the first part of this, the medical examiner was pretty cool, just stating the facts and everything else. But once cross-examination began, she was not so happy. Where my screenshots go? I took screenshots. Captures? Nope. Shift Alt screenshot. That didn't work. Where are my screenshots? I'm new to this, y'all. I am very new to this, and I don't know how all this works. I'm learning. I's learning, y'all. Cloud, maybe? Oh, desktop? I don't know where they all went. I gotta find them. That's interesting. Under C username, we're going to go here. Pictures. Nope. That's interesting, y'all. Oh. Don't know. Anybody want to help me on this? There, I found them. Yeah. I think this is my favorite picture. I'm going to open it. I'm going to close that. Oh, boy, we finally got it. Yay! I like it. Let's see what the court is doing. Court is not back yet. I am going to do something with this. Do I hear some noise coming in? Open with Photoshop just once. We're going to exit down. Open that up. Yay! We got it, y'all. We got it, y'all. Oh, we are good. Oh, this is so good. I am so happy with this. Yay. So what I'm doing is I am editing this video because I want to use it. So anyway, we were talking about the direction of the bullet, and I really cannot see how this bullet was in any way, shape, or form not shot at a more from a lower angle to the upper angle unless the body was bending over. So his fanny pack and radio were on the ground next to him. So maybe he sat down like the guy said, and he went to rest for a minute, and then he went to pick up his stuff, and the guy stood up and shot him. That's the only thing that I can think of that could have happened. Honestly. Outside of, from this angle. But the biggest problem for me is, what's the word I'm looking for? The angle of the trajectory just doesn't fit. And it's like if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. It's kind of how I'm feeling right now. Seriously, how I'm feeling right now. Now, once again, there's a lot more for the prosecution to put on. They think, another 2 weeks of this. So we shall see. We shall see. I kind of like that music. What do y'all think? I kind of like that. That's nice. Uh-oh, I had to stop it for a minute. I want it to loop. I want that one to loop. Breaking news. Mixer 17. I don't know what that is. I think I need to get rid of that one. I don't know what that is. Oh, that. So we have this. Then we also have then I got What's this one? I guess nothing on that one. We turn that off. Then we got
No.
Breaking news.
Then I have small robot. I don't know what this one is. I don't think it has anything. Megaphone didn't do anything.
Monitor. This one is cool. This is really cool. And then, of course,
I have that one. Sunshine. So those are all my sound effects.
Okay, y'all. I got my sound effects going. Whoop, whoop. Configure devices. Button displays. I like it bright. Dim after 15 minutes. Automatic brightness. No. I like it bright. Outputs. High sensitivity system. I think we're good with that. Yay. I'm just waiting on court, y'all. It should have already been back. Okay. I haven't learned a whole lot. Here we go. Here, let's talk about this. Here's one of my bones with this woman. They were trying to determine, okay, the prosecution was trying to determine the time of death. Well, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I don't know why somebody's putting a breathalyzer test on Facebook. That just threw me through a loop. Okay, so anyway, back to reality. Okay, so you have the time of death at 6:24. When you have somebody that was found dead and died unattended, I do not understand why they did not have somebody come to the scene and do a time of death analysis. Body temperature, rigor mortis, the pulling of blood, everything they do to determine whether or not, or how, not whether or not, but how long they feel this person has been deceased. Let me pull up my other documents. I need to see what time the phone call was made. Kelly Day. No, that's not going to be it. Okay. 2:40 p.m. received a call. Reported person shooting. Okay, 2:40 p.m. 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 something plus hours from 2:40 to 6:24. Yeah, 6:24. Received a phone call. Ranch reported person shooting at him on his ranch. He took about 15 minutes to arrive. So this is the Border Patrol agent number 1 who testified. So we have at least 2:40 is the initial call. Okay? 2:40 is the initial call. So between 2:40 and 6:24, the man bled out or laid there dead. But the medical examiner does not put the time of death until 6:24. That's 3 hours and 36 minutes or so difference. And to me, that makes a big difference, because the time of that he heard the shooting was probably closer to, well, yeah, it's about the same, 2:40, 2:30, 2:40. So for me, that's a big difference. And to me, I am like, okay, why do y'all not know? And I understand what the defense was getting at, is when you put a body into a morgue situation, it cools it rapidly, thus slowing down the decay and rigor mortis or whatever process, and is harder to determine the time of deceasement when you are in that situation. So I feel that the investigators on scene did not probably handle this the best. Let's look at that a little bit. You've got somebody who arrives on scene. He is a Border Patrol agent. He goes with he meets up with the rancher. The rancher tells him that the body is over so-and-so. So he starts heading towards that direction while the rancher gets his coat. Another agent shows up on scene. They talk very, very briefly, and they ask the rancher to please place his sidearm in a safe location, or, disarm himself. And so Mr. Kelly then goes and takes off his sidearm and places it in a horse trailer, a small horse trailer, leaving it there, and then they walk off. Yeah, I got a problem with that. That is not securing a weapon. Okay? So then they go over to close to where the body is. One of the troopers stays with Mr. Kelly, and the other one goes and checks the deceased and says, yep, he's gone. That there was 1824. He called it at 1824, 6:24 in the evening. And that's where they placed the time of death. Even though that this person has laid there possibly up to 3.5 hours. And they're calling the time of death at 6:24 instead of saying the time of death is between somewhere of 2:40 and 6:24 at night. That to me is not doing due diligence, because she's admitted on the stand. She took it by their word. Now, I don't know how it works down in their county, but in my county in Texas, the only one who can call someone or, basically pronounce somebody is your JP. Oh, I did it again. Is your JP. So, they are taking a very long break. I know it's an afternoon break, but come on, y'all. So I have issues with that. I also have issues with the fact that they said that they did not really section off an evidence field, so to speak, because they didn't really give a reason, but I think the prosecution said, oh, well, what was he saying? Oh, I'm looking at somebody or something. Because they're saying that he was laying in a field. The prosecution said there was no bystanders. There wasn't a great need to protect the victim and the debris field. I kind of have problems with that. I really, really do. Because the way I see it, you've had a dog in the debris field already. You've had multiple police officers going through a debris field. You have, where's the live feed? Oh, there it is. Nope, that's not it. I accidentally shut down my live feed, and I gotta go find it. So the thing that's frustrating to me is that they did not section or cordon off the debris field at all. And I'm like, okay, so now they're sitting here and why did I do that? I'm having a hard time. 4 days ago, where's the live today? Oh man, I'll forget it. So now you're sitting here and you have a debris field that people have gone through, and including police officers and whatnot. And for me, I have an issue with that. That to me is a no-no. The dog had already gone through that. There we go. The dog had already.
Let's slow that down. We'll go back over that.
Okay, we're back. Let's see, we just hopped back. So the dog had already gone through the debris field. In fact, the dog found the body. But when it comes to any other debris or anything else that was going on in there, oh, they haven't started. Yeah, they have. They didn't protect it.
Leaving small punctate red purple.
Let me come back a little bit. I love how they're leaving the demonstrative up. Let me share.
And we can continue with the cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Remember we talked about something called stippling? Yes. Okay. Let's slow that down. We'll go back.
Yeah, let's talk about stippling.
What is it?
That's the spray of gunpowder.
Stippling is powder that usually seen on the skin that's caused by unburnt gunpowder impacting the skin, leaving small punctate red purple abrasions.
So if I was suicidal and if you look my way for 1 second, and put a gun to my head, you would suspect in that scenario that you would see stippling on my scalp somewhere here, right?
Correct.
No.
Nope.
Or are you concerned if I cause stippling?
Okay, tell me what.
Stippling is seen in intermediate range gunshot wounds, not contact gunshot wounds.
Oh yeah.
Would anything else be left there if it was contact, like I illustrated?
And typically we would expect to see a muzzle stamp or a muzzle imprint.
Right, but if it's held within here to 5 feet?
Okay, so you kept using the word intermediate range. Could you define that range again, please?
It's highly variable depending on the ammunition and the weapon. And the only way to know exactly distance from muzzle's target is to have the same ammunition and the same weapon and do repeated test firings.
Okay.
So when I'm giving numbers, it's generally speaking, a couple of inches to typically a foot and a half. Sometimes you'll see a little bit further.
DPS, one of the other Border Patrol people said 6 feet, which I thought was a
So
little.
if I have a gun in my hand, I'm using a pen.
Please don't tell me you're bringing a gun out. Please, oh, we're using a pen. Thank you, Jesus.
Standing back 3 feet. And pointing a gun at this person. Is it possible that
Good tech,
I can
dude.
see this evidence of stiffness?
She forgot.
Typically, you would not expect to see stippling at that range of muzzle to the body.
Because what?
Because gravity would pull the burnt and unburnt gunpowder off prior to it impacting the body.
Well, she's giving the clearest answer out of everybody.
So you can't testify that someone was standing in my proximity to the subject. This is true. You can't testify if me having a very high caliber, let's say some sort of big handgun, pointed at the person, like a robbing, okay? It's possible that could have happened too, correct?
Right.
Can you repeat or rephrase the question?
Is there any evidence that would dispute that I'm standing here a few feet back from the subject, the deceased, having a handgun pointed at him, like as if I was robbing? Is there anything that would dispute that happening based on your autopsy?
I think he would have some back clothes.
He was clothed.
Pardon?
He was clothed. So we would expect to see stability in a clothed body anyhow, because the clothing isn't going to absorb the burden of the gunpowder.
Okay, that was actually my next question. Thank you. Now let's go back to my question. But that was on my list. I'm going to pick up another small amount.
So is there stippling on the clothing? No.
I'm holding a pin like it's a gun. I'm saying this for the court. I know you can see me. Is that right? Sure. Okay, thank you. And is there anything about your medical examiner report that would dispute the fact that I had a gun? As if I'm using maybe I'm robbing the guy, or whatever. That would contradict it. Assuming this is a pretty powerful handgun, is there anything that would dispute it that you see in your report?
That the distance of the gun from the body is within the range of habit.
Yes.
Is that the question? Yes. No, that's possible.
Okay. So, if you moved on to my next question, I'm going to make sure I understand you. Having clothing on sorry. Having clothing on you can obstruct any of the stippling from showing up on the body.
Yes, it would show up on the clothing of the body.
Okay. And that's not something you would do, correct?
That's correct.
But you only do it with the actual body and stuff. Alright, now we're going to go back to, actually, let me do this. Your Honor, at this time I would like to enter into evidence defense AAA, who has already been identified and shown to this witness, which was the full report of a medical examiner's report. I would like to note that it is a medical report. It does identify itself through a affidavit that has been put on there long time ago. And the date of that report actually is, the affidavit is July 19th, 23. She went through all the pages already to look at it. I killed off a photo of the subject that I don't think is really part of the report that somehow got attached, so I took that off in all fairness.
Your Honor, I have no objection if the entire report is only photo that she just took off.
Do you want that off?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no problem.
No objection, Your Honor.
Testing,
Not objection. That's
testing,
AAA.
testing.
Thank you, Judge.
I hear myself, but I can't hear
Permission
myself.
to publish a small portion.
Technical difficulties sometimes can arise. Am I frozen?
Investigator narrative. You did talk about earlier about getting information from law enforcement. You did talk about earlier so that you could look at that information
Testing,
and then correlate with what you see in your examination, correct?
Yes.
And you said you did do it in this case, correct?
Yes, probably.
Okay. And that has come in this report under the form of investigator narrative, because you didn't author that, right? That's what you relied on to get you started, correct?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it says. Some of it could be prior to examination. Sometimes information comes in after.
Okay, so you can fall back on it if you need to based on your evaluation, or you can use it to get started.
Correct.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to read it.
I gotta hear that question again.
You did talk about earlier about getting information from law enforcement so that you could look at that information and then correlate with what you see in your examination, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And you said you did do it in this case, correct?
Yes, probably.
Okay. And that has come in this report under the form of investigator narrative, because you didn't author that, right? That's what you relied on to get you started, correct?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it says. Some of it could be prior to examination. Sometimes information comes in after.
Okay. So you can fall back on it if you need to based on your evaluation, or you can use it to get started.
Correct.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to read it. Certified print. Put my flashlight on. This is January 30th, 23. An unidentified male was reportedly with a group of foreign nationals that were observed by a homeowner on his property. Yes, it's 205, about 17 down. The homeowner indicated that the group was running parallel to the property and had long rifles on their possession. So pausing there for a second, hence your reason to believe that this could have been a rifle, could have came from the investigator, correct?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. Because you would have read this in the beginning at least once, right?
Prior to signing the report, if it was, yeah, it was offered on the 30th, yes.
Thank you. He then allegedly pursued the group and engaged them, firing one shot from his AK-47 rifle. Now you've been identified a type of rifle, right?
Yes.
Okay, get it off of there, really, guys?
Okay. And you have one
And she's
shot,
using
right?
her flashlight to make it easier to read because the courtroom is not well
You
lit.
didn't hear about the 8, 9 other shots in this case, did you?
I don't know the details.
Okay, let's keep going. 911 was contacted at 17:56 hours, and the decedent was located by deputies with Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office at 1823. He was pronounced at 1824 hours by Deputy Lopez. The decedent, and that's where you get your time, right?
Correct.
The decedent was noted to have a defect to his right posterior
That print is small.
small print aspect of the torso, as well as the defect to approximately the center upper interior torso. No other defects were observed by the time that the cause was reported, or the case was reported. Excuse me.
This is the information she received. So they're already following the
However,
defendant.
the decedent had not been manipulated much. Didn't say not at all, it says much, right? You heard what I said? Yes. Okay. And in true best scenario, you wouldn't want the body to be manipulated in any way, correct? Correct.
As little as movement as possible.
In order to preserve the potential evidence. The location of the decedent was in a flat area of the property and was approximately 100 yards from the physical residence. A Mexican voter identification card was located on the decedent with the name Gabriel Cuen Buitimea and date of birth of 9/26/74. Information was obtained via telephonic interview with Deputy Barbara from the Sheriff's Office. Additional information was obtained via, PCOME, preliminary death form completed by Deputy Barbara. So you got all that information from Deputy Barbara.
Correct.
Would that be fair to say it came through some sort of communication, teletype internet, some sort of form of technology?
If that's what's documented, yes.
And that's what I read, correct?
Yes.
So she already had been tainted
This whole report, in
with the
that information I
accusation
had, right?
It's
by
not
the AK-47.
Okay. And it said that the subject shot one time at this deceased. And so you rely on that as being possibility of what's happened, correct?
Yes.
Primary possibility. No secondary is mentioned.
Just look at my notes for a second.
You're waiting for that rain and static sound. Possible. Yeah. No. I mean, yes, they're supposed to get certain details of information, but at this point, they're already looking at the defendant without even entertaining the thought that the cartel or the smuggling traffickers,
Was there any, what were the lab
coyotes,
results?
could have shot him.
Which lab?
Get your camera off the documents.
Toxicology?
Toxicology?
I don't have that. Report. It's part of your.
Get it off the documents. No, ma'am. Or sir, back it off.
This is not where you want to do your white balance check. Why are you zooming in on these documents when they're not entered into evidence for us to see? Y'all need to train your photographer better.
Or should I say videographer better. They've already made some mistakes and gotten their hands smacked in court. This is going to get it again.
The toxicology screening positive findings included Delta-9 THC at the level of 2.0 milligrams per milliliter from the femoral blood sample that was submitted to NMS labs.
So we've been using marijuana.
Or something that doesn't allow.
It's the metabolite of marijuana.
What does that mean?
It's a breakdown product.
It's not smoking, you're eating it.
Marijuana in the system.
Correct.
And is that a large amount, small amount, or is it that?
The recording limit is 1.0. It's double that.
So it's high.
As far as amounts, I don't have an opinion as to numbers.
And each person is affected differently. I accidentally got one of those.
Correct.
And I was in the ER. I'm highly allergic to THC in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, it was not a good experience. I didn't even get the joys of a high. Wasn't even trying. I didn't even know I had gotten a hold of one.
Second to review my notes, Judge.
Life coverage, thank you.
Okay. Let's slow that down a little bit, go back over that.
My fat thumb.
What is it?
Stippling is a pattern of injury seen on the skin that is caused by unburnt gunpowder impacting the skin and leaving small punctate red purple abrasions.
So if I was suicidal, and if you look my way for 1 second, and put a gun to my head, you would suspect in that scenario that you would see stippling on my scalp somewhere here, right?
No.
Nope.
I would be concerned if I saw stippling.
Okay, tell me what.
Oh, sorry guys.
Stippling is seen at intermediate.
Well, make sure to get it right, the report
Sorry about that, guys. My bad.
was reported.
Now they're gonna switch. I apologize. I accidentally hit the 5 button, whatever that means. I don't know. Kathy, love you again.
Hey, Tim, are you familiar with marijuana and the breakdown, the type of marijuana?
Not to the level of one's a toxicologist. No.
THC or delta THC is like the active ingredient for the breakdown of marijuana.
I don't know, honestly.
It's fine. We ask you about your report that was here, this lengthy report that has the photos, CV, and your findings, and the pathology report. In there, counsel read you the narrative about what was reported to have occurred on the day of January 30th. Remember that? And in that narrative, do you know who Officer Barbara received the information from to fill that out? Do you know?
I do not know.
Mr. Kelly.
If you're going to come from a defendant, right? You don't know. No information.
That's correct.
But you do have indication in the report about the use of, I want to make sure to read it right in the report. Using a certain type of weapon that was used in this case, right? It's an AK-47. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Is the work that you saw, the injury, the exit, and the damage inside the torso of the victim consistent with an AK-47?
Yes.
But also the cartel carries AK-47s. And the friend of the victims knew exactly what AK-47 sounded like because they're so commonly shot up in Mexico during Christmas, he said.
We have a lot of things with this demonstrative device here. One thing, let me just find it for it. I mean, you have Exhibit 14.
Oh, Lord, don't show it. I'm going to come over here just in case. AK-47s are one of the number one, that was the number one guns, weapons. I'm trying to be careful with you two. That are used in the cartel in trafficking for protection. They carry them
Oh, that's one of them?
Yes.
And we'll just remind the jury what that one is again.
It's the inside of the right chest cavity, the area underlying the entrance wound, and it's showing the multiple fractures with the sensitive hemorrhage and
By standing close enough to somebody with a 9mm would do the same thing. Or 45. Just depends on how far away you are from the person at the time of the incident. Just saying.
Person will come over to the skeleton here, and we've got this upright, vertical, perpendicular to the ground skeleton, right?
Yes.
You're doing defense counsel was using a pen to show where a possible entry was going to be.
Possible that is the entry.
Gunshot. Remember that?
Yes.
Right. This is assuming a lot of variables, correct?
Correct.
Assuming the victim is upright, assuming someone is standing kind of right behind the skeleton here, right? Correct. And shooting an upward angle with a handgun.
Right.
A lot of assumptions in this case, right?
Right.
You're leaning forward.
Alright, what I want to do though is talk about my 6, 7, 8 ribs, right?
Correct.
Do you mind coming down and doing this again for me?
Yeah. Should have pulled it out of there before he got there. Sorry, bring your own to
We got a
me.
photo, 14-inch.
Okay, guys.
Using 14-inch, remind the jury where that is on the body. So starting below the scapula, is that the scapula? That's the scapula, and there's some anatomy. That's the scapula, so 6, 7, and 8, right? Correct. Looking at that injury wound, or that damage to the rib, explain to the jury the likely entry point, or how that oil comes into that body, the angle of that body.
It's taking out this whole area, a large area defect affecting or fracturing all three of these ribs.
What kind of angle are we talking about when it comes to?
She's not a forensic scientist. She does autopsies. She can't do
I don't know
forensic.
exactly how the board is when it enters the body.
There you go.
I don't know how the board travels through the body.
Okay, so then walk the jury through. First question is, if it hits the rib, can there be, we've heard the word yawing or deflection. Can there be a possible deflection from the bullet?
Yes.
I said that earlier.
Ribs are hard material, and so once it impacts a rib or three ribs, its trajectory is going to be altered in some way, shape, or form.
But it's not from the top down. If you shoot the gun straight up or straight,
So it's possible, doctor, that a shot
No.
from this angle to the victim can hit his rib cage at kind of a level line and deflect upward out through the chest plate.
Yes.
That's a possibility, right? Right, you can give me the stick. You can say,
no. That didn't help the defense. But I knew it was coming. I already said it earlier. Like I said, that could
in
have
addition,
happened.
doctor,
He could also have been leaning forward.
to the
He could have
skeleton,
taken something up off the
you
ground.
got new information about what happened the day of January 30th.
No.
You don't know how many shots were fired, what the victim, there's another victim in the case, what they testified to. You got no information.
No.
So hypothetically, we'll give you a hypothetical. Right, when most people hear a gunshot, what's the common reaction by most people when they hear a gunshot?
Man,
To duck. To duck. So hypothetically, if someone hears 3 gunshots, their reaction would be
To get low.
to get low, right? And so it's not uncommon for,
possible.
I should still be working. It's not uncommon for this person to be heavily out of the way.
Take cover. Yes.
Take her.
It wasn't good for.
The number of rounds fired or which round hit this person, do you?
I do not know.
That's not an uncommon reaction when you hear 3 rounds fired, then to duck or cover, right?
Objection, asked and answered.
Over again to,
We have a stationary skeleton in front of you, right?
Yes.
We don't know if this individual is moving or mobile, do we?
No.
That would change some of the variables in this case, right?
but you were on witness said we were not running when the shot went off.
And we change trajectory and how that will interact.
Objection, leading.
We update those variables impact the bullet, the body.
Yes.
I need to get a objection, Your Honor.
We talked about cross-examination about abrasions. You remember those questions, they saw some photographs?
Yes.
We don't know, do you have any information, do any other witness about what they observed the day with this victim?
Objection, leading.
It's just an yes or no, you have no information.
That's leading.
Good for you, girl.
It's a yes or no.
First of all, there's objection. It's a lot of concerns on the rule. So we need a question. We need a question, suggestion, yes.
Do you have any information or what to testify about what happened to this victim
No,
on the day of January 30th?
no. They're wanting her to do forensic and gun analysis and bullet. I mean, that's what the forensic guy was for. You can do a bunch of hypothetical crap all the day long.
Did you see the
She's
photograph
not an expert
of
witness in that
the
field.
victim's hands?
She just did the autopsy.
Not that I recall. No.
You don't recall the victim's hands that they had observed?
No. I don't recall.
I'm not going to show this. I know what this image is, and if you know what it is, you can't. Oh no. I don't trust this camera person.
Just 1 second, Your Honor.
Just kind of watching closely. Yes, I've stated the person could have been ducked in a fetal or ducked position or bending over. Doesn't mean that the stray bullet.
I'm going to photograph this exhibit. I want to say
Still bullet. Could have hit,
AAA. That's been admitted.
but so could a bullet from the person that was with him. Reasonable doubt.
You see that photograph?
I do.
Do you see pants, right?
Yes.
Based on the photograph, I can zoom in. Any holes or anything on these pants? Can I train you?
It's hard to see, but nothing obvious. Glaring.
The jury's going to have the photograph.
Keep the camera on the frickin' witness.
Let's talk about the time, the pronouncement of death. You remember the questions on cross-examination about the pronouncement of death?
Yes.
The pronouncement of death is, I think you touched it. Explain again what the pronouncement of death is.
It's when someone is examined and determined to be dead. And that is when the time of death.
I'm going death by
The day that is not death is expected to come upon time of death.
Is that the time of the actual victim's death?
No, rarely. Only in a hospital situation that the death is witnessed. Is there going to be an exact time of that?
And you examined the body in this case, right?
I do.
On February 1st?
Yes.
And the time of death is 6:30 on January 30th. If the victim was killed 4 hours earlier, would your analysis of the body be consistent with a 4-hour earlier death?
Objection, speculation. She said she couldn't tell because of the length of time and refrigeration that she didn't have.
How good for you. We've gone DEFCON red. I know you
We
may
talked
not.
about the cooling, human bodies and coolers and things like that, right? Correct. We talked about the decomposition and rigor mortis and the time setting of that, right?
Yes.
Right, I know you're not CSI here, we're not watching a 30-minute show here, so the answer
Objection to sidebar.
Asked and answered.
Objection to sidebar.
I'm sorry,
Who wants a sidebar? You're in trouble.
that was too many, Your Honor, my narration. It's my narration, I strike that. So we can go to the question about decomposition and rigor.
Okay, there was no picture now.
When someone's shot and killed and pronounced, and say they died, not the pronouncement, they died, what's the timeline for the jury about what's going on with the human body?
So the three things that we talked about is organ life, the cooling of the body after death. That's going to happen right away, instantly, until the body reaches ambient temperature. Room temperature, the temperature of the air around it. So typically the body is warm to touch. Most people are warm. And then over a period of time, it's going to get cooler. Well, that's dependent on the environment that the body is in. And then reason for the death, those sorts of things all impact the organ noise. Vital noise is the pooling of the blood. Again, that happens typically you can see it on skin surface within 30 minutes to a couple of hours. It's going to be evident. At about 12 hours, it becomes what they call fixed, right? When you push it, it no longer goes away. Prior to that, when you push it, it's going to branch. So about 12 hours, it becomes fixed. And it stays fixed. It doesn't ever change. So if I push on a body and on the regular rigidity on the body, and it's fixed, I know that person has been dead at least 12 hours. Give or take, right? All of that evidence play a role, but that's generally speaking what we see. And the last of those is rigor mortis. That's the stiffening of the muscles after death. Usually that's going to set in within an hour or two. After someone dies, you're going to start to notice in the smaller muscles first, they're going to become stiff. So you're going to see it in the jaw, feel it in the jaw and the fingers first, and then it moves into the larger muscle groups. And it becomes firmer over a period of time, up until that 10 to 12 hour mark again, when it reaches the maximum strength, right? So at 12 hours, the jaw is going to be really firmly closed. In that, it will take a lot of force to open it. It's going to take a lot of force to break the muscle rigidity in the arms and legs. That does pass over time. So it reaches its maximum around 12 hours and then it starts to dissipate. The other decomposition process.
It's a 24-hour process to go from full rigor mortis back into a natural state.
Grain discoloration of the body.
12 hours to get to the strongest part of the rigor mortis and 12 hours to get back down to normal.
When the rigor mortis is passing, then stuff starts to happen.
So you pretty much have a pretty solid understanding of what happens to a body after death.
Yeah, I'm a doctor of pathology of
So if someone come across a dead body, a body has been shot or whatever it is, and hypothetically touch the body, no pulse, but the body is still warm, can we determine in a period of time if the body is still warm when the death happened?
Within a couple of hours, probably, if it hasn't, if it's in a...
But it also was January 3rd to 30th, and the temperature was probably in the 50s, 60s or below. And it was getting cooler by the night, so that's going to slow it down. Just saying, the cooler it is, the slower the process is. It's a
Any
variable.
questions for this witness from the clinical service? All right.
Uh-oh, we got jury questions. I'm going to turn down their volume because it's going to go staticky. They, to me, scored a possibility that, yes, it is plausible that the person was crouching, the bullet could have come up, but he wasn't crouching with his head to the ground. He crouched this way. So the bullet would go more through and through, not to me in an upward position. If you were bending over, picking something up off the ground, and somebody shot you from behind, then I could see how it would go in that path. Could it have hit the rib bone and deflected? I think if it had, it wouldn't have broken all three rib bones. It would have broken one, maybe the upper one, but the lower one would not have been exploded, or it would not have been too high. Meaning, if it hit here, it could go this way. If it here, it could go this way. But the pattern was too big. I believe he was shot far closer than 115 yards away. And I believe the guy that was with him knows who shot him. If he didn't do it himself, he knows who shot him. Because don't want to do this, there we go. Only the cartel carry radios and binoculars. This guy was carrying for sure a radio. They have photos of him in the same clothing on multiple different dates and times of the year, with the same backpack, the same shirt, same pants, same fanny pack, and the radio and binoculars. So this guy was a coyote or a watch or a scout for a coyote. He was working for the human smugglers. So, not to say he deserves to die, but I tend to believe that there was a disgruntlement or something happened and he got killed, and the fanny pack had been opened, the backpack had been opened and ruffled through. So I have some doubt. I have some questions of possibility of things being removed from the deceased body after the shots happened. He could have been smuggling drugs. He did have THC at I think a 0.2 or whatever, a 2. 1 is supposed to be the threshold. So he did have THC where they said it was edible. So it was in his stomach and in his lab work. So, yeah. And the guy with him had been caught once carrying THC, natural form, across the border and got caught once. And so it would not be far-fetched to think that they weren't trafficking humans and carrying across THC in the natural form. I'm trying not to say certain words because I don't want to get dinged. I mean, if they can say it in court, why can't I? But you know how it goes. You can even get dinged for what happens in court. My lights are red for a reason. You may not see them as strongly as I do. But I got real irritated with the corner. He drove me nuts. I'll put him back to natural. That's not what I want. That one. Okay, they're still listening. So, once again, I'm not saying that it's not possible that this gentleman's bullet did kill the guy, but at the same time, I do believe he had a natural fear.
So, here's some of the questions. Question number one, is internal pooling of blood consistent with the body being prone or supine during the time?
Oh, there's someone medical on the field. Ooh, we got someone medical.
So the blood that was pooled within the body cavities, the two cavities of those blood was the sac around the heart and the right chest cavity. There was blood in there because of the gunshot wound injuries. The body, when it arrived to our office and at the time of examination, is going to always be in a supine position until we move it in a different position.
Right, but it was found in the other
shifts with the positioning, but for the most part, once we take custody of the body, it's going to be in a supine position, so it's going to be pulled at the back of those services just because of gravity.
So, in this book, the question was directed to whether or not you could state an opinion based on experience, knowledge, and training about whether pooling of blood has any reflection.
So was the pulling on the front of the body or the back of the body?
This year is trying to get more information about whether the body, whether there's evidence that you can testify to as to whether the body was supine or prone.
Prone, but it went.
I do not know.
Right, another question is the internal wound consistent with the bullet tumbling inside the body?
Or straight through?
I don't know. I just know the path that it took.
Another question. Are there any definitive findings with internal organs that show that blood has not moved since cell death in the organs? Parentheses, I'm trying to determine if body organs show the body was prone or supine at the time of cell death, during cell death.
Can't tell.
This particular question is directed towards.
So if he's standing up and went straight down, or did he stand up and move and then fall down?
The organs. So is there any definitive findings with internal organs that show that blood has not moved since cell death in the organs?
She can't say.
After the heart stops beating, the blood is not moving anywhere other than when we reposition the body, which again is not prone position, so the blood is going to be pooled in the organs on the same way that it pools.
So she doesn't know if it was pulled face down first, or because when they put it on the back and
In your opinion,
put it in the cooler, everything went to the lowest of the back.
Obviously, if you know, or if you have a good basis to know, the foundation to know.
Somebody is medical on this group.
The question is, in your opinion, is the path of the entry wound consistent with the shot from long or short range?
I don't know. It's not a contact wound.
Another question, in your opinion, is the entry wound consistent with a straight shot or at an angle?
Angle.
The bullet takes an upward angle in the body.
You can see from the outer wound by the wound
right to
shape.
left, back to front, and upward within the body.
And that's within the body.
Correct. I do not know outside of that.
All right, very well. Excellent questions. I have the questions to the clerk, and the lawyers can ask follow-up questions to the questions of the jurors. Mr. Jennings.
The 30 minutes.
On the movement of the body, you've handled countless autopsies, correct? Correct. You handled from the body was found at scene and is transported to coroner's office, right?
Yes.
That body has to be picked up, put in a body bag, and shipped, right?
Yes.
Movement goes on, right?
Yes.
No more questions, right?
Any additional questions?
In in relationship to that same question, I guess, if I understood your answer, due to the movement of the body, the blood is moving due to gravity in the position that it's placed in, correct?
Yes.
So it's hard to say how it was closer at time of death. Correct. Okay, nothing further.
This guy,
Any more questions or follow-up questions?
prosecutor, grabbed his side where the gallbladder is.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. Woo! I think we've reached the end of
All right,
the day.
next witness.
Nope.
Yes. While we're doing that, so you've heard objections that have been ruled upon, one of the frequent objections, more frequent than others anyway, has been leading. So let me explain what that is. A leading question is a question that suggests the answer as opposed to being open-ended. So, Billy, isn't it true that we're about to stolen cookies from the cookie jar? The answer, the question suggests the answer, that it's Bob. A non-leading question would be, Billy, do you know who stole the cookies from the cookie jar? If he says yes, then non-leading follow-up question would be, who stole the cookies from the cookie jar, as opposed to, it was Bob, right? Now, non-leading questions, when a party calls a witness, they're not allowed to ask leading questions. They're a witness. They can ask open-ended questions. Either party. Cross-examination, a lawyer can ask leading questions. So that's where this objection comes. And it's not a reflection on anyone's question or any of the lawyers. It's just been a frequent objection, so
Good explanation, Judge.
that's what I'm saying.
It's nice that you explain things as you go. I like you.
Thank you for patience, and you probably next witness.
I think that he explains that well, and I'm glad that he does, because a lot of these people don't understand watch like we do. So the lover, as someone calls us. I call myself court junkie. Interesting to see who this woman is.
If you would please go ahead and take a seat, please.
Okay, she's got documents. The seat is wrong because it's been in all day.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you just briefly introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Sarah.
Do you mind if I call you Tara? Alright, Tara, where are you from?
All right, Tara, who?
You came in this morning, right? Long flight?
Okay, y'all, we're gonna back that up. Tara, who? She's not speaking into the mic. I need her to speak into the mic. I can't crank this up any louder.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you just briefly introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Sarah.
Do you mind if I call you Tara? Alright, Tara, where are you from? You flew in this morning, right? Do you mind if I call you Tara? Alright, Tara, where are you from? You flew in this morning, right? Long flight?
Oh!
Tara, can you spell your name for the court reporter? Your last name, too.
Yes. First name Tarah.
Oh, thank you.
Last name Helsel.
That's how
What do you do for a living, Tara?
I am a forensic scientist and the manager of the forensics department at a company called RJ Lee Group.
What does RJV Group do?
So RJ Lee Group is a materials characterization laboratory, and it has a lot of different departments that offers a pretty wide range of scientific testing services. For example, we have a chemistry department that does things like water testing. We have a group that analyzes concrete, and we have many other departments. However, we also have a small criminal forensics department, which is the group that I'm a part of.
I don't know if the other lady had the mic on because boy, I can't hear her.
Utilized in gunshot residue analysis.
And what's gunshot residue analysis?
So gunshot residue analysis is basically looking for particles that result from the discharge of a firearm, specifically particles that originate from the primer, which is one of the parts of a cartridge.
If I just use GSR for short, that's gunshot residue, would that be an okay abbreviation?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So GSR, how many cases have you worked on doing a GSR analysis?
I have done analysis in over 700 cases, analyzing over 4,000 samples.
How long have you been doing that?
A little over 7 years now.
And what was your background before that?
Qualifying as an
I
expert.
had a Bachelor of Science degree in Forensic Science from Waynesburg University, and then following graduating, I started at RJ Leaker.
No one knows where Wayne's College is at. You just know where UA is at. So where is Wayne's College at?
Waynesburg University is in southwestern Pennsylvania. It's kind of close to the West Virginia border.
Sorry, Waynesburg.
Waynesburg, yes.
Were you asked to do you
I like her.
work for Santa Cruz County, do you?
I don't know.
And in your practice with RJ Lee, do you often get hired by jurisdictions to do GSR analysis?
Yes, absolutely. Our laboratory does gunshot residue analysis for agencies all throughout the United States and also beyond.
And were you asked to do anything work in this investigation?
Yes, I was.
What were you asked to do, Tara?
I was asked to analyze a gunshot residue collection kit for gunshot residue analysis.
All right, I'm going to show you. I'm going to get. Actually, I think I can have you do it, Tara. Do we have some?
You need to qualify her. You've not qualified her as an expert witness. You need to ask an objection. Qualify her. You didn't qualify her. You asked her background. You didn't ask to qualify her and give the other side time to object.
What I'm showing you up there as you get set up to it is State Exhibit 130.
While she does that, I'll be right back.
Cut away. Judiciously. And for the record, the witness is opening Government Exhibit 130. Do you recognize the tape on that, Tara?
I do, yes.
Is that your tape?
Yes, this is the evidence tape that I put over the box upon completing the analysis.
And how do you know it's your evidence tape?
So over top of where the tape meets the box are my initials and then the date in which I sealed it.
Okay. And can you look inside there?
Yes.
What's inside there?
So inside of there is
You don't have to pull it. Just tell us what's inside there.
is this basically this bubble wrap bundle.
And do you know what's in the bubble wrap bundle?
Within there would be the gunshot residue kit that I analyzed.
Your Honor, I'm going to move to admit Government Exhibit 130 as evidence.
Can I get clarity? Is it in the box or to the contents?
Obviously, the contents of the box. You want to open
May I
it?
approach the box and look inside? Thank you.
Yeah, you're supposed to show the box. You're supposed to show. Thank you. I think I need to get a new thing for my ears, a new plug. They're supposed to show the defendant's lawyers the evidence before they bring it up, so they can have a
130.
opportunity to either.
We just take some and
You have an opportunity to either object or clarify. And she did that.
This bag was inside of the bubble wrap.
do you recognize that bag?
Yes.
Is that your bag?
This bag was not ours. This bag was originally typed with the evidence.
Oh, okay. So can you open that bag?
Yes.
And inside that bag, what do we have?
This is the gunshot residue collection kit that I received in this case.
And what goes in a kit?
So this kit is composed of a number of stub samples. They're basically small vials that have an adhesive sampler inside that would, in theory, be dabbed onto an area of interest and attempt to pick up any particles that might be present.
So basically, they tested Mr. Kelly's hands for gun residue because he fired his weapon.
Should I open it?
Or they may have done it also to the victim to see if he fired a weapon. And they didn't do the victim's hands.
Are
they marked in any way?
Yes, they are marked with the numbers that were written on them when I received them, which is 1 through 5. And then whenever I receive them, I also put on an RJ Lee Group sample label for each one. And those labels are also present.
This is one of those situations, just for the court's record, is foundations can be laid layered on the samplings. Where the samplings come from, did it indicate where the samplings come from?
On the labels I put on, yes.
Where?
So sample number 1 is labeled as jacket 1. Sample number 2 is labeled as jacket parentheses 2.
This is a
Sample
jacket of the
number
victim.
3 is from pants. Sample number 4 is from shirt. And then sample number 5 is a collection blank.
And what's a collection? Like blank?
Blank.
Blank.
Yeah.
B-L-A-N-K.
Yes.
What's a collection blank?
So a collection blank is basically done to ensure that contamination is not occurring during collection. Generally speaking, may be left open to the environment during collection to show that there were not particles in that environment. However, since I didn't collect the sample, I can't say for certain how it was used in this case.
Okay, but you received those from the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Do you remember the officer? Did it indicate anywhere in your report who sent those to you?
I cannot recall the name offhand.
Was your report help you refresh your recollection?
Yes.
You have permission to
She brought a report with her. I watched her carry it in. Can always use the one that's provided. Had to get me a sugar fix.
I actually have Government Exhibit 40.1.
Find the right report.
Did I refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Who sent those to you?
Detective Mario Barba,
Did it say what agency?
the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office.
Just so I have it written down, 1 and 2 samples come from the jacket, number 3, the pants,
Yes.
4, a shirt,
Yes.
and 5 is a blank.
Correct.
Kind of like a control group, like a control.
Yes, that would be another term for control.
Okay, and you did GSR analysis on those 4, or did you do it on the blank one too?
Yes, on all of the samples, including the blank.
Did you do a GSR analysis on all 5 of those samples?
Yes.
What's your results on that?
They were all negative for gunshot residue.
And what does that mean, in your opinion?
Basically, it just means that gunshot residue wasn't present on the samples.
So you flew all the way from Pennsylvania.
Simply that there
Say
were
they're
no
negative.
particles there.
One of the reasons, so I just to be completely forthright, one of the reasons is sampling had blood on it, right? One of the shirts had blood on it?
So I didn't receive the actual garment. I received the samples that were collected.
Okay. What does blood do?
So blood can mask gunshot residue. So if there is blood on a surface, it could cover up particles that may be present so that you wouldn't be able to see those particles.
Why would you bring that up? Prosecution, you're creating doubt.
The jacket, 2 of them on the jacket,
I'm sorry, I yelled.
pants, shirt, and sample, no GSR.
Correct.
So if there was GSR on the shirt, the blood could have covered it up, masked it, so the shooter could have been close. And it could have been.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Blood
Good afternoon.
was all
Good afternoon.
What is the distance that gunshot residue
good.
might show up?
So that really varies. Typically, the cloud of particulate that is expelled during a discharge can travel several feet, usually within about 4 to 6 feet. However, environmental conditions can also make that travel farther. And then in addition to that, there are some particles not from that cloud, but actually on the bullet that can travel farther distances.
If I have gunshot residue on my left sleeve here as I'm pointing to my left arm and I brush hard enough and everything, could I affect whether there will be any signs of it?
Yes.
Gunshot residue can be easily removed. So things like environmental factors or activity can cause particles to be removed from a surface.
So it
And if
doesn't
I
stick.
take my right arm that still has particles and rub it against my co-counsel like I'm doing here and illustrating, is it possible that the gunshot residue would show up on her jacket?
Yep.
Yes, so just like gunshot residue is easily removed, it's also easily transferable from surface to surface.
What is the reasonable time that you would, based on your knowledge, that one should do this testing?
It really depends. So it depends on the circumstances. So studies have shown that with normal activity, gunshot residue on the hands will be removed within about 5 hours or so. With clothing, it really depends. If there are particles on a garment and that garment remains undisturbed, the particles will remain indefinitely because they don't break down or degrade. However, if that garment is subject to much activity, coming into contact with things, handling, all of those could be factors that could remove particles.
Hence why you swab the inside of the body bag when they're at the autopsy table.
Together, rubbing upon each other.
I'm being snotty.
The result.
It could cause particles to move from garment to garment if they are all bagged together.
If I brushed off my right arm onto my co-counsel, could it remove it from my right arm and now only be on her jacket?
Yes, it would depend on how many particles are there and the extent of activity, but yes, that could be possible.
I like her honesty.
The gunshot residue needs to have exposure to an item in order for it to possibly show up on it, correct?
Yes, so if gunshot residue is on something, it's from either being near the discharge of a firearm or from coming into contact with something with gunshot residue on it.
Now you tested, what was the date of your testing?
So the testing was done in July of 2023. So the report was July 25th, so it would have been probably within the days leading up to that.
When was the sample collected?
So you said July or June? I'm sorry,
July.
Thank you. So this is close to 6 months after the date of the offense, which has been noted here as January 30th. Did you know that?
I did not.
Okay. Let me strike that. More reasonably would be if you're going to test.
I have to go back and find out the date again.
Now you tested, what was the date of your testing?
So the testing was done in July of 2023. So the report was July 25th, so it would have been probably within the days leading up to that.
So you said July or June? I'm sorry,
July.
Thank you. So this is close to 6 months after the date of the offense, which has been noted here as January 30th. Did you know that?
I did not.
Okay. Let me strike that. More reasonably would be if you're going to test, you should have tested closer to the date of the offense would be a better choice.
Once the samples are collected, no, because the particles don't break down or degrade. They're not going to go anywhere.
So when were they
As soon as those
collected?
items are contained, whether it's the samples or the articles, whether they're tested immediately or months later, that's not going to change.
What date was the collection made?
Yes.
I'm not sure what the date of collection was.
Do you have anything in your report that says it?
not the date of collection because we did not perform the collection.
What about the label that's signed and dated?
If it was collected in June,
I don't.
May?
I don't.
So if it hadn't been collected early, that could affect the lack of results, correct?
Not from the garment, because if the garments themselves are contained, again, those particles aren't going to go anywhere. So, for example, we've tested garments that have been in storage for a decade and have found gunshot residue particles on them.
If these clothing items that you tested was placed in a plastic bag and moved around, could those particles, if they're there, show up on the plastic bag rather than the clothing?
Depending on the extent of activity and how many particles are there, yes, that would be possible.
That's a good point.
Now, we have seen what appears to be a gunshot close to the back, a little bit to the side. That's the entrance wound, okay?
Okay.
All right, and you don't know that, right?
No.
Okay. Now I want to show you something.
It's out of her scope of
It's marked.
testimony for the prosecution, so she's hearing all this for the
So
first
you
time.
can see it first, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Now she's like, oh crap, what's coming? Oh, let me get ready just in case we have to, because she shows some
Just want you to look at it.
They.
and I'll ask you a
the
question.
camera.
Okay? When you have a chance to examine it. Now, I'm pointing to an item. It's not admitted yet. It's a photo in this case.
Oh my God. What did you just do?
Pointing to an item. It's not admitted yet. It's a photo in this case. Of a backpack. Correct?
Correct.
And would you say that's a pretty good sized backpack?
I would say so, yes.
Kind of plump, looks kind of fat, typical height of a backpack, right?
Yes.
And backpacks are usually worn on your back, right?
Yes.
I would presume so, yes.
So if I have this size of a backpack covering my back, wouldn't it be smart to test the backpack for gunshot residue rather than clothing underneath the backpack?
Yep.
It could be helpful. It would depend, again, on the circumstances.
Well, let's make this more clear. If this backpack was on a subject, okay, that is now deceased, following me?
Yes.
Okay. And it's kind of wide, and it's about yay high. I'm reflecting, I don't know, 3 feet tall or whatever. If it's covering up the clothing, like the jacket or the shirt, isn't it true that gunshot residue cannot penetrate through this backpack to land on the items below it?
Correct.
It can be carried with a bullet.
Particles, basically dispersing that area, and that backpack is the outermost garment that could block the particles from getting to lower layers.
They
You
didn't
were
test
never
that.
given a backpack, were you?
I was not.
You received a jacket, correct?
I didn't receive the jacket. I received samples that were labeled as coming from the jacket.
How big are those samples?
They are small vials. They are the vials in front of me.
Can you hold one up again?
Yes. They're these small vials.
Does it tell you on those vials where it came from?
So
The clothing?
that information was provided to me from Detective Barba. So the samples were labeled 1 through 5. He clarified to me which of each sample came from. So he clarified that 1 and 2 were from the jacket, 3 was from pants, 4 was from a shirt, and the 5th was a collection blank.
You don't know where on the item?
No.
So far as you know, they're underneath the backpack.
Yeah, I can't speak to the circumstances around the items or the collection as I only received samples that were already collected.
And whatever customers that come and need your assistance in your lab, they don't tell you when they've collected it?
Not always, no.
Would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily. That's not going to change whether or not gunshot residue is present on the surface.
So this is not necessarily scientific or conclusive, it's just more of a helpful tool.
It is scientific in that it's based on a scientific analysis, but basically this analysis can just tell you whether or not particles are present. It can never say why there are or are not particles, or what scenarios could have caused this result.
Pass the witness.
So they didn't send any samples from the backpack that was on the back, and the gunshot kind of went in to the side of that backpack.
The image that defense counsel showed you of the backpack?
Yes.
Yeah, and that looked like a school backpack?
It just looked like a standard backpack.
And do you know the collection procedures that Detective Barbara used?
I don't.
Or the determination of which samples to send to you?
No.
That's for Detective Barbara, right?
Correct.
Your job was to look at those 5 vials and see if there's any gunshot residue, right?
Correct.
Do you know what bullet wipe is?
I'm familiar with it, yes.
What is bullet wipe?
Basically, it is from basically the passage of a bullet through a garment.
Do you know if there was any bullet wipe found in this case?
I don't know.
That's all the question I have, Your Honor.
Thank you.
They didn't test for that.
Very well.
Uh-oh, we got questions. I'm going to turn this down before we get blasted. I like that better than that static sound. It kills my hearing aids or my ears. It's like... a lot more peaceful. Why can't they play this? You know? So much more peaceful. I can just keep that going. So relaxing. Okay.
Charter number 10, I read this one word, experimenting. Is that correct? Okay, just want to make sure. All right, question from one of the jurors. Is your determination done by empirical, experimenting, or with the division?
So the basis of the analysis, there's plenty of literature around the history of this type of analysis. Basically, we use an instrument called the scanning electron microscope to analyze these samples and looking for the presence of combinations of lead, barium, and antimony, which are specific to the discharge of a firearm. And all of that is based on really decades of literature and research in the industry.
Good answer. Good question.
Yeah, sure. Tara, is that considered generally accepted scientific procedures and methods?
Yes.
Any follow-up questions from the defense?
No, sir.
Okay, this witness to be excused.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, sir.
Please tell me we're done for the day. Good job, my dear. Uh-oh. Here we go. Gotta do the music again. Okay, I think we're done for the day.
We're going to take an evening recess. Remember the admonition of the court. We will begin again tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Please be in the jury at 8:30. Thank you very much.
Right, of course.
All right, we are done with yet another day. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Okay, I better be careful. I don't want to get my Southern gospel going too much. Okay, y'all. Interesting day. They did actually today, I think prosecution scored a couple more points than they really have this entire week. I think one of the biggest points that they scored, which is something that I talked about earlier, was that the body could have been in a bent over. Now, they said crouching and hiding position, which I still don't get the angle from that. The scenario I came up with is if the body is bending over, like tying a shoe, or maybe bent over with more straight legs, trying to pick up something off the ground, say, from the witness that was with the victim. He stated that they were running because with the group they were with, the coyote said that he had seen or heard Border Patrol. So they all crouched down and the vehicle passed by. Now, mind you, they didn't see it. It was just a statement. The guy said Border Patrol. And then as soon as they stood up, they scattered and he and the victim went in one direction together. Then they got to a place where they stopped and rest, which is where the shot happened, allegedly. He states that they dropped their water. No, that was another question. Did they ever find the water the guy said they dropped? Because he said they dropped water. And they had 6 to 8 liters, I think 6 liters apiece is what they said. I have to go back and look. And they said that they dropped water. Where's the water? That's something I would like to ask. Did y'all ever locate any liters of water?
Cicely Caravaggio.
Would you spell your last name, please? I don't know where that came from. So, they dropped their water. They got up and left. And that's when they stood up is when the shot happened. Now, if they got up and the victim bent over to pick up his fanny pack, because he always had it across his body in pictures, but for some reason, when they found the body, the fanny pack was off the body, which means he could have just snapped the clip and someone could have pulled it off the body, stolen what was out of it, and left it next to the body. The thing is if he bends over to tie his shoes and someone shoots him, that would give that same exact angle, or I call it exact, that would be very close angle to what was shown on the skeleton, dummy skeleton. And to me, that's more of a logical, if I was on the jury, I'd say, guys, look, bend over the body, put the thing in, standing up, bent over like you're picking something up and you get shot. But it wouldn't be coming from a bullet coming straight up or straight out like this. It would have to come at this downward position as if someone's standing behind you. But they did score a few little ahas when they started talking about how the body could have been bent over, crouching, because they said that, once you hear 2 or 3 gunshots, you're going to duck. Yeah, you would. But there was a gunshot heard even before the 2 or 3 gunshots. Just saying. That was, I think, about the only score that I had today from the prosecution, and it's barely a check mark. They had some good stuff with the defense. Not a whole lot other than that. Now, the medical examiner, she's a hot mess. She was fine until she was getting cross-examined, and then she got crossed. But I think there was a lot of questions that I was surprised they didn't have. First of all, I don't know how every state does it, but when I've been on scene and there's a victim, if they have a sheet covering the victim, if anything that they use to cover the victim, all of it goes into the body bag with the victim. Because once they get it to where they're going to do the autopsy, and I'm speaking out of just what I've seen. It doesn't mean it's exact, but from what I understand is they take all of that, and because you don't know what debris or evidence is on that. If there's gunshot residue, like this young lady said, adorable young lady, I really liked her, said that is on the, say, the sleeve of the victim, and then you cover them with a sheet, then that gunshot residue is going to transfer. So everything is sent for analysis, and it's sent to the labs, and everything is sent to be, analyzed when they get the body to the destination, and they take it out of the body bag. That's when they separate the clothing and everything, and they sit there and they evidence label it and do all that stuff. Why was the backpack not tested for gunshot residue? Because the backpack was covering the majority of the body. So to me, if the gunfire was coming from the direction that they claim it was, the backpack would have been impacted as well. Unless it's just this miracle shot. But if I'm standing and I'm close to the victim and there's a backpack and I come at this angle kind of towards the side and they're bent over, I can see how it happened. But there was no gunshot residue tested for the backpack, which I am very shocked about. Also, they did not test the hands. They didn't swab, because we don't know if he was carrying a gun. But, it's not as important for him, the victim, but just saying. The victim did have THC in his system, an edible form of THC. From what I understand, it is a lot more impactful. It hits harder. He did have double the limit. Limit that was given was, I think, a 1, and he had a 2. Whatever those measurements, it could be 0.1 and he had a 0.2, whatever it, but he had double the limit on that in his system. And then they asked a lot of questions to the medical examiner that really should have been asked of a forensic scientist. I was a little bummed. Tara Hetzel, as sweet as can be, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, forensic scientist, criminal, only testified a gunshot residue. Man, I was expecting a whole lot more. I was hoping for more. One thing that the body did have of the victim was abrasions on the forearm, leg, and the bridge of nose. The defense said those wounds could have partially become from being dragged, and they said yes. Were the two clothes torn in the same areas as the abrasions? They didn't go very far with that. They really hammered the medical examiner about the position of the body and the time of death. The body was found face down. It apparently, the call went out at 2:40 for when the rancher found the deceased. He made his first phone call at 2:40. The medical examiner said time of death was 18:24 or 6:24 in the evening. And it was a sheriff deputy, or I think a sheriff deputy, that pronounced body the person was deceased. And so that's where she took her time of death. But in reality, it could have been up to 3.5 hours or closer to 4 hours since the person had deceased. They talk about rigor mortis. Rigor mortis takes 12 hours to reach maximum stiffness, and then it takes another 12 hours to get back to fully normal. The pulling of the blood on the body when you decease always pulls in the deepest areas. That's not touching a hard surface. But then when they rolled the body and put it on the table and gurney and all of that, and then they took it to the morgue and put it in the cooler and all that kind of stuff, then it settles to the back. So the prosecution was presenting that evidence, and then the defense came in and basically got her to say she doesn't know. She doesn't know if the person died face down or on his back, because movement of the body and cooling of the body would change all that. So not a whole lot of major ahas, but a couple. Let's see. Oh, I didn't know that there was 3 fences. Oh, the sheriff deputy that was on circled. They asked him to circle on a picture where the body was found, and he circled due east instead of southeast. And I thought that was pretty interesting. The other thing is that they touched base on the fact that the Border Patrol came out when the gunshot originally was heard, and Mr. Kelly, the defendant, went outside, saw a group of people, anywhere from 5 to 10. Some of them stated some of them had guns or rifles. His wife said she saw a group, and then some of them had guns and rifles. He took his AK-47 and fired it off, 9 rounds up in the air. Not always the smartest thing to do, but he's trying to scare him off. By doing so, he comes back in and places the calls or whatever. But when they came out to investigate, they walked the property and nobody found the body. And then they come back and there's a body. Almost 4 hours later, the body is found by the defendant's dog. So that's where we are. Well, I thank you so much for joining me. You guys are so awesome, and I appreciate you so much. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And I hope you guys have a blessed and awesome evening. And until tomorrow morning, 10:30 our time, I will have to be at a doctor's appointment, so I will have to play catch up. But I will be listening. In the meantime, good night and blessings.